It is confirmed, Exiles. 3.22 is not the surprise live beta of Path of Exile 2. It could be the release though, right? No. They want time to market. They want time to sell supporter packs for Path of Exile 2. It's not coming with 3.22. Definitely not. With that out of the way, I'm confident in what Path of Exile's 22nd version 3 expansion is going to be. The final Atlas update before Path of Exile 2's huge launch within the next year. Obviously, this is on the mind of other awesome content creators in the scene who you should totally watch. But before you do, here's my take on what's coming with 3.22 and the ultimate upgrade to our beloved Atlas before PoE changes forever. The cycle is reborn. Wait. Wrong game. The cycle was broken with 3.21 Crucible when there wasn't a substantial Atlas update. Since Conquerors of the Atlas in 3.9, every 4 expansions there has been an enormous shift to the Atlas. 3.9 threw out the old Elder Shaper chase in the Atlas and introduced Cirrus, the Conquerors, and Watchstones. 3.13 brought in the Maven, multi-boss gauntlets in the Maven's Crucible, and region-specific Atlas passive skill trees. 3.17 gave us 4 new Pinnacle Bosses, Eldritch Currency, Crafting, and Influence, and a united Atlas passive skill tree. Finally, 3.21 gave us nothing. Nothing really big for the Atlas, just Atlas gateways. Nice. So, 3.22, the patch that will be hyped up at ExileCon and has already been juiced up a bit by GGG themselves, it's gonna bring us our last big PoE 1 expansion to Endgame. When the Atlas was introduced all the way back in 2.4 Atlas of Worlds, no one predicted it would eventually have its own massive passive skill tree, but now it does. The all-in-one version of the tree, condensed down from 1 for each prior Atlas region, was introduced all the way back in 3.17 Siege of the Atlas, the last major Atlas expansion. That patch also introduced keystones to the Atlas's version of the passive skill tree. Now, in 3.22, what could they add next? Well, with the original PoE passive skill tree, the next notable feature added to the tree after keystones were jewels. I posit that's the big ticket Atlas customization feature that will hit with 3.22. Now, we've already had a pseudo jewel system for the Atlas in the past in the form of rollable watchstones. That's an era I definitely don't want to return to, though some people might look back on it fondly. Essentially, we used to have 32 watchstones we could socket into our Atlas, and they could either be magic or unique. The mod pool was massive, and it was hard to find the best set of mods for your Atlas. With the vastly improved all-in-one Atlas passive skill tree, I could see Watchstone adjacent jewels making an appearance as an optional dynamic mechanic to enhance your Atlas further. However, I don't think the mod pool needs to be that different compared to the former pool of Watchstone modifiers. In the case of unique Atlas jewels though, I think GGG have an opportunity to help enhance bossing in Path of Exile and create a new class of chase items. Call me unhinged, I know I am, but what if a few of these Atlas jewels almost guaranteed certain drops from Atlas Pinnacle Bosses with a huge hindrance? For example, what if you could guarantee the Eater of Worlds to have a 25% chance to drop Ashes of the Stars, but in turn you could not get hit and had to kill it in under 45 seconds? What if you could force the Searing Exarch to drop a Forbidden Flame at a 50% chance, but you needed to complete every meteor phase without getting hit or leaving the area? These achievement-like special case fights were hinted at heavily with the Forbidden Sanctum and the no-hit challenge with Lycia. Those who could go through the entire Sanctum without being hit and kill Lycia were guaranteed one of the rarest and respectable items in the game, the original Sin. GGG were obviously experimenting here, but I think it would be a compelling addition to the endgame of PoE, helping incentivize bossing and specific methods to overcome endgame bosses, especially in solo self-found. Of course, some builds will be able to cheese this, but I think it's a risk GGG is willing to take. After adding jewels, I'd gamble GGG will add cluster jewels and masteries in a future update, perhaps with the first Atlas expansion during the 4.0 or Path of Exile 2 era. In addition to jewels on the passive skill tree, we're likely to receive a few more Atlas memories. Right now, we have them for Elva, Einhar, Kirak, and Nico. At the very least, I expect we'll get a set of memories for June, the only other official master we currently work with. She could have an absolutely wild set. Imagine a memory of Fallen Masters wherein the map's mobs are replaced with members of the Immortal Syndicate, or a mod like Area contains 10 Syndicate strongholds. Veiled items would rain from the sky. Alongside her, I'd love for a new type of memory to arrive with what I think will be the focus of the final endgame expansion, Zana memories. Each could deal with a specific endgame boss in a map related to Zana, the Elder, the Shaper, and each of the Conquerors. The mods could be something like, this area contains the Shaper, or this area is conquered by Cirrus. Each could be slightly reimagined boss fights in various maps on the Atlas. Instead of speaking with Zana to enter these memories, they'd be usable maps that drop fragments leading to an ultimate Pinnacle encounter. Hear me out. There's a good chance we'll get at least one new Pinnacle boss in this expansion, whether it's an Atlas update or not. If it's an Atlas update, a bittersweet final Path of Exile 1 boss would be the now jaded person who started this entire endgame mapping journey with us back in Forsaken Masters, Zana, the Master Cartographer. After the canon death of Cirrus the Awakener, Zana abandoned the cast in 3.17, Siege of the Atlas. She was replaced by Kirak, but where did she go? All we know is she chose exile, and she always questioned our sanity. Remember, she is the one who had the power to trap the uber-powerful conquerors of the Atlas inside the Atlas. What if she tries to do the same to us? I would love if a Dark Zana returns to try and stop us from grinding the Atlas. She would be yet another layer added to the endgame, only appearing after we've killed the Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds, pissed that we're still trying to gain power and set on the fact that we could turn into another Cirrus or Veritania. Combined with her boss fight could be a new type of endgame content similar to the Maven's Gauntlet. This time though, it could be a wave-type coliseum of maps and map monsters. Waves and waves of Atlas-based creatures turned against us by Zana as we try to escape the Atlas, and Zana tries to trap us within the Atlas. I think that would be absolutely rad. It would be a ton of work, especially with Zana's memories, but it would be awesome. If we don't get Zana, there are two other feasible options. Yet another Eldritch being, or a villain to help usher in Path of Exile 2's own story. Group 1 follows the present storyline that adds to the pool of otherworldly entities we already know quite well. The Elder, the Maven, the Infinite Hunger, the Black Star, the Eater of Worlds, and the Searing Exarch. There are a couple new boss fights they could add. Number 1, the Tangle or another one of its champions. Number 2, the Cleansing Fire or yet another servant of it. Number 3, the Maven's Progenitor, who we've been warned about by another boss fight competitor. Number 4, the Envoy. He's powerful enough to subdue the Maven and stop us from harming her. How tough would he be in an actual battle? Finally, it might be something entirely different, a thing we haven't been warned about explicitly. If GGG is looking to further tie into Path of Exile 2's story, perhaps it could be another Scourge Lord breaking into the Atlas itself, or a part of Rayclast, setting up the whole Seed of Corruption arc of PoE 2. Or it could be Shaper 2.0, another Atlas researcher turned madman who is totally showcased front and center on the ExileCon 2023 website. Regardless of what this Atlas expansion adds, we know the developer's goal is to craft a shared endgame between Campaign 1 and Campaign 2 of Path of Exile. Even though the narrative matters very little to a substantial swath of the Path of Exile player base, the developers will probably try to make it tie together as seamlessly as possible. This could be accomplished through customized dialogue for the epilogue quest NPCs based on the campaign your character arrives from. There's also a slim chance they'll just handwave the combined PoE 1 and PoE 2 campaign player base, but I'm not a fan of that. There's also another chance that this isn't what they're trying to do anymore, and they'll let us know very soon at ExileCon 2023. Hey, you totally unhinged Exile. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching the videos on screen now. Every minute you watch helps the channel grow. To my current channel members and patrons, the most sane exiles among us all, many thanks for your support. To everyone who watched until this ultimate moment, Tala Moana.